So settling in into your body. Just connecting with how you are in this moment. Can there be a sense of allowing yourself to be just as you are? Sometimes I feel like meditation and mindfulness can be like a dear friend who comes and sits with you and is really curious, open, wanting to be there with you and saying, "How are you? How are you right now?" And that friend not judging how you are, not trying to fix or change anything about you, just willing to be with you. I'm here with you. Mindfulness can be like that friend in a very deep way. Opening to this experience. The body with its sensations and feelings. With the breath. And the mind receiving, experiencing. How are you in this moment? Can there be that friendliness of connecting with how things already are in this moment? Receiving whatever is simple, easy to connect with in this moment. For many of you, that may be the breath or body sensations. Receiving what's here. What has come to be. Body sensations as they have come to be. The breath as it has come to be. Emotions perhaps even thoughts, can be recognized as they have come to be. All of our experiences arising lawfully in dependence on conditions. What has come to be in dependence on everything that's led up to this moment and how we are relating to it in this moment. So receiving what's here. What's obvious, easy to connect with. At times, our mind settles and connects with an experience like the breath for a period of time. And the attention is often also drawn to other experiences. We can notice that shift of attention, recognize that the attention has been drawn to some other experience, and then just know that, receive that. That's what has come to be. It may be something that's lasting for a short time, such as a sound that comes and goes. Or it may linger a little bit and hold the attention for a little while. This friendly receiving, recognizing this is what's here, this is what has come to be. And for many of you, the attention may also gravitate back to the breath, and that's fine. Just receiving how you are in this moment. Another piece of how we are in this moment is noticing, recognizing what our relationship is to this moment's experience. So often our habits of mind, of wanting things to be a certain way, of wanting to hold on to things that are pleasant, get rid of things that are unpleasant, of confusion or perhaps ideas or beliefs about what should be happening. So often those habits of mind are so familiar that we don't recognize them. They kind of come up behind the scenes and start evaluating and judging what's happening without our consciously recognizing it. And so it's useful from time to time to check in. How am I with what is happening? Not just what is happening, but how am I? Is there a wanting something to happen? A wanting something to stop happening? A confusion, an idea? Or perhaps there could be a relationship to the experience of allowing. It's okay. What's here? If we notice a relationship of wanting or resisting, the very noticing of that, the exploration as a friend, oh, that's what's going on for you right now. That's okay. Something unpleasant is happening and resistance is happening. That's what's going on right now. It begins to open us to an allowing attitude to even resistance and wanting and confusion. It can be quite interesting to see what happens when we become aware of wanting or resistance or confusion and know it. Like that friend, oh yeah, that's what's here. I can be with you with that. There can be some spaciousness and ease that holds that experience. And we can be in a space of seeing how does that relationship then change or transform through the simple meeting of experience. That's what's happening right now. That's what has come to be. And when we can touch into and recognize the experience of the allowing, this is what it feels like to not be in conflict with what is happening. Our hearts understand this is a helpful direction. In that space, there's learning that happens around what has come to be, understanding that begins to arise, that helps the mind to begin to transform. In the space of that friendly attention, resistance and wanting held in that space of friendly attention, they begin to fade, begin to weaken, get a little thinner. And in that space of friendly attention, the qualities that come along with allowing attention, warmth, friendliness, wisdom, patience, compassion. They strengthen. And there are definitely times when something comes up so strongly, an aversion, a resistance, a fear, a confusion, that it's really challenging to just simply meet it with allowing. It's like it overwhelms the mind. And when that happens, simply allowing is often not actually the right thing, because in that space we can just get pulled into the rabbit hole, the whirlpool of that reactivity, and get lost. And so we have to know with wisdom when we can be with something with that allowing attention, and when it's too strong. And when it's too strong, we have some skillful means redirecting the attention away from that difficult experience to something that's easy to connect with, easier to connect with. That may be the breath. It may be a more general sense of the body sitting here. It may be opening to the experience of hearing. Something that lets you connect and stay present. Not by pushing away or fighting, resisting, or repressing the difficulty. It's more just of a redirect, turn to another experience. Basically, our practice is really simple. We sit and receive experience. For many of you, receiving the breath in a simple way. Noticing the experience. Holding the possibility of a friendly, allowing perspective that meets what's happening. Mindfulness being like that friend. I'm here. I'm happy to sit with you, whatever is going on.
Good morning, everyone. And again, welcome to IMC. I know Melody or Lauren has an announcement.
Good morning. My name is Lauren. Happy Father's Day to anybody who is a parent or a child of a parent. We are doing our monthly Mindful Parents group today at 11:15. Our topic today is equanimity, the parami of equanimity. We welcome parents and caregivers of children of any age, from infancy through adulthood. Even if you've never come, please drop in today. It's our last group until October, so we'd love to see you. And please ask me any questions after the talk. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nancy. This is just a notice to our community that we lost a long-time Sangha member who helped and was a former librarian named Mary Rodriguez. I've had a number of people ask about her recently, and I just learned today that she passed on June 8th. And in her memory, I'd like to kindly remind people to return their library books. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. So most of you probably know that the entire center, as well as our retreat center, runs on donations, and all the teachings are offered freely. So if you're inclined to make a donation, there's a box near the front door with the teacher's name, and then another slot for operations. And I believe our electronic kiosk near the library door is also working. And you can always donate online. So our teacher this morning is Andrea Fella. She's a co-guiding teacher right here at IMC and at the Insight Retreat Center. She's been practicing insight meditation since 1996 and teaching insight meditation since 2003. She is particularly drawn to intensive retreat practice and has done a number of long retreats, both in the United States and in Burma. During one long practice period in Burma, she ordained as a nun with Sayadaw U Shanaka. Andrea is especially drawn to the wisdom teachings of the Buddha. Her teachings emphasize clarity and practicality, and she teaches residential retreats for IMC and other retreat centers around the country. Good morning, Andrea.
Thank you, Martha. Hi, everyone. So I'm happy to hear that the topic for the Mindful Parenting Group is equanimity. That is also my topic. Completely unplanned. We did not coordinate this. Yeah, the topic of equanimity, sometimes in these conversations I'm having with people these days, there's a question, how do I cultivate equanimity with things as they are, with the world as it is right now? How do I cultivate that equanimity? And then there also might be the question, do I want to cultivate equanimity? So I want to talk to that today. Talk a little about what equanimity is, what it isn't, and maybe offer a slightly different perspective on equanimity that may shift your thinking about, hopefully maybe shift your thinking about, do I want to cultivate equanimity right now? So the quality of equanimity, one of the words, the Pali words upekkha, often translated as equanimity. There's a lot of words that we use in maybe kind of synonymously with that. So, equanimity isn't a word that's frequently used in our everyday life, but words like allowing, accepting, balance of mind, non-reactivity, non-conflict, those are words that can evoke some of the quality of equanimity. Joseph Goldstein brings in the phrase impartiality, not towards or against anything. And so some of those words kind of have the sense of like accepting, allowing. They have the sense of just kind of almost the flavor of I have to be okay with things as they are. And I'm going to talk a little more about that in a moment, but I want to also speak a little bit about what equanimity is not. So some of those flavors, like impartiality, can have a little bit of the flavor of a little bit of stepped back, disconnected. And that's not what equanimity is. It's not stepped back, it's not disconnected. In fact, equanimity can bring us closer to what's actually happening. It's not indifference or apathy. So we could think of those as kind of maybe the near enemy of equanimity. They kind of sort of have the flavor of equanimity, that I'm okay with things as they are, but it's got a quality of being detached and not connected. Fundamentally, equanimity is a quality of being connected with what's here and fully acknowledging what's here is what's here. And that's the piece I'd like to spend a little time with this. Because my understanding of equanimity is that it's a state of mind that comes from a space of very deep wisdom that understands what has come to be as what has come to be. It's not fighting what has come to be. It's not denying what has come to be. It's fully recognizing what has come to be, what's happening in this mind, in this body, what's happening out there in the world. Conditions have led to that. It has come to be. It has already come to be. It's happening already. So the state of the world, everything that's going on, it is happening. Equanimity understands that. What is arising now, what is happening now, has come to be in a lawful way based on conditions. We may not like what has come to be, and I think too that this quality of equanimity, it's not about liking or not liking what has come to be. It is really about that clear-eyed recognition. This is what is here. This is what is happening. So it understands, equanimity comes from the wisdom that understands the conditioned nature of experience. Conditions have led to this moment. Some of those conditions are related to human hearts and minds. This is the teaching on karma, that when greed, aversion, and delusion arise in the mind, it tends to put greed, aversion, and create more conditions for greed, aversion, and delusion in this mind, but it also puts greed, aversion, and delusion into the field. It puts anger, hostility, hatred into the field. It puts desire, wanting, craving, clinging into the field. We are not only a product of the craving and clinging and aversion and greed and everything that's arising in this mind, but we also receive it from the world and contribute it to the world when that's what's happening. And so this is a piece of the world. This is a piece of what goes on, is that there's this arising of our human conditioning. And we don't just condition ourselves, we condition each other. There's a back and forth kind of conditioning that goes on. There's also the conditions in what's, in nature, the weather, conditions of genetics, conditions of the laws of physics, all of that. What's happening right now is arising based on lawful conditions. And so equanimity, one piece of equanimity, one aspect of equanimity is understanding and recognizing that what has come to be is what has come to be based on lawful conditions. And resisting or fighting what has come to be kind of binds up energy, kind of creates a kind of tension in the system that and it also, the resistance, aversion, greed to what's happening, creates a tension and a binding up of energy in our own hearts and minds. And it also tends to put that resistance, that anger, that frustration, that wanting, that greed, that confusion out into the world. And so with the mind that understands this is what has come to be, kind of like in this moment, there's no point resisting what is already here because it's already here. And that, if we resist it, resistance, aversion, greed, they take so much energy. If we explore the possibility of understanding that not fighting what has come to be, again, I'm talking about what has come to be to this moment, not fighting what has come to, because I think when we fight what has come to be to this moment, we're often like, we're fighting the past. It's like we're trying to figure out, how can I change the past? If we can open to the space of, okay, this is what has come to be without resistance, with a clear-eyed recognition, yep, this is what's here. That creates space for wisdom to arise that can step forward into the next moment with wise action. And that wise action can arise when the mind is not fighting, conflicted. That wise action can arise connected with compassion, with wisdom, with kindness, with ethics, with the understanding of non-harming as a ground. These qualities come quite, let's say more, maybe not quite easily, but more easily when we're not resisting what has come to be. I think sometimes we have the idea that equanimity, especially with the words like allowing, accepting, we have the idea that equanimity means non-action. But what a space of equanimity can do that really fully accepts and understands this is what has come to be, that space of wisdom then also understands that the conditioning going forward, what's happened to the past until now, that has been lawfully conditioned. And what will move forward from this moment is also lawfully conditioned. Putting more greed, aversion, and delusion into the world is going to create more greed, aversion, and delusion in the world. And so the wisdom of equanimity, that equanimity is grounded in, not only understands that what has arisen to this moment is conditioned, but that what comes next conditions what happens. And the teachings of the Buddha point to compassion, wisdom, kindness, being motivators of action. I think we often think, we have this kind of sense of action coming from, so much of our action comes from habitually spaces of greed, aversion, and confusion, delusion. And we might have the feeling that if I didn't want something to happen, why would I do anything? If I didn't want to get rid of something, why would I do anything? Those mind states, which are they're so human. We share these, all of us share these motivations of greed and aversion and act on them. And when we are acting on them, when greed is acting on itself, when greed is acting in our hearts and minds, it cannot understand the perspective of another possibility of something else that might be able to act in its place. So greed and aversion, when we are caught by those states of mind, they cannot fathom that there's another quality in the heart, compassion, wisdom, that want to act also. Not out of hatred, not out of confusion, not out of fear, not out of desire, but out of wanting to alleviate suffering. So equanimity is the mind state that's based in the wisdom, deeply understanding conditioning. Not only the conditioning that has come to this moment, but also the conditioning going forward. It also, I think, that wisdom also understands, even acting out of compassion, acting out of wisdom, taking skillful action. That there's so many conditions going on in the world, so many different, the Buddha talks about just in terms of the conditions around karma, the Buddha says that the web of the conditioning around karma is so vast that if you try to contemplate it, you will go mad. You can't follow back and say, where did this event come from? You can follow some of it. You can get some of a sense of where this came from. But it's such a vast, interconnected web that the Buddha says it's one of the things that can't be fully contemplated. And so there's so much conditioning, not only in karma, but also in the laws of the world, of nature, that this wisdom also understands that actions that are put into the world, they may or may not have the effect we want and the effect when we want them. But that doesn't stop us from continuing to be motivated to try to alleviate suffering. It doesn't stop wisdom and compassion from being motivated to try to alleviate suffering, to try to create conditions of well-being internally and in the world. So I think there's some similarities in a way between what we cultivate when we cultivate equanimity in our own hearts and minds. One of the key ways to cultivate equanimity is to notice what's getting in its way. To notice the reactivity, to notice the tightness, the constriction, the confusion. And so when we meet that, often, when there's confusion, constriction, tightness, fears arising, aversions arising, unpleasant situation, unpleasant experiences arising, pain is arising, we often experience a resistance to that. Internally, what we can explore there, as I mentioned in the guided meditation, we can explore the possibility of, first of all, recognizing, because habitually our minds will go to, when something's unpleasant, it will go to aversion. When something's pleasant, it will tend to go towards wanting, leaning into. And so those things come up kind of quietly. They often are kind of hidden behind the scenes in our minds, and so we don't clearly, consciously recognize them. And so we may begin cultivating equanimity, cultivating this quality of understanding the conditions by recognizing that there is the unpleasantness in this example. There's unpleasantness of pain, for example, and there's an aversion to it. When we can recognize by checking, how am I with something? How am I with this experience? In our meditation, this is in our internal experience. How am I with this experience? Oh, there's not liking, there's aversion. Sometimes when that aversion is clearly seen, there's the allowing of that. There's a kind of, the mind can be balanced with that. Oh, right, that's what's happening. There's painful experience and there's aversion. Over and over again, I've seen when I've noticed that, oh, right, aversion, that's what's happening. There can be a relaxation in the heart and mind. There's a kind of a sense of, okay, yeah, that's what's going on. This is the quality of equanimity that allows the mind to clearly recognize, yes, this is what's here. There's pain and there's resistance to the pain. The seeing of it helps the mind to have some balance with it. And then in that space, in our internal meditation, sometimes that's all that needs to happen. We can recognize at times that just allowing the aversion to be there creates the conditions for it to weaken, for it to fall apart. I've seen that happen over and over again. It's like when I recognize, oh, the aversion's there, when it's clearly seen in our meditation, often that aversion just, it doesn't have any traction anymore, so it falls away. And then we get an understanding of what it means to just be with the challenging situation, with the mind that's balanced, with the aversion having fallen away. So sometimes in meditation, that's all that's needed, that quality of allowing and acceptance and just meeting. This is what's here. Unpleasant, aversion. That's what's here. Oh, aversion weakening, aversion falling away. Unpleasant and okay. Oh, aversion coming back. Unpleasant, aversion, allowing that. That can be a process in meditation. And there are also times when, the aversion itself, the situation, the aversion are so strong that we get pulled into the whirlpool of it, into the rabbit hole of it. And in those moments, it's useful to do something else, to not simply, like the understanding, the wisdom that comes with equanimity, of understanding the conditions here are overwhelming my capacity. What's skillful? What's a skillful action? So equanimity in that case isn't about simply what we might think of as allowing. It's about skillful action. The equanimity understands this is, this condition is pulling me out. wisdom understands that, and so brings in some tools. Maybe redirecting the attention. I won't go through all of these, but this one kind of popped into my mind during the sitting. There's a teaching about 5 methods for working with things when thoughts and mind states get overwhelming. And one of those is a skillful redirection, taking your attention out of that thing and putting it into something else. And that's often what I suggest in the meditation. There's several others, and one of them, and these I think will be useful as we think about applying these tools to our relationship to the world and equanimity in relationship to the world. The first one is contemplating the drawbacks of the reactivity. Contemplating that, this reactivity puts more junk into the world, puts more, reactivity into this system. So contemplating the drawbacks of the challenging mind state and those challenging thoughts. Another one is to replace them with something skillful, like metta, for instance. So those are other possibilities. Those are kind of bringing in other tools in our practice to allow us to navigate when things get so strong in our hearts and minds that we just can't settle back and know, this is what's here. Aversions are rising. Difficult situation and aversion is arising. We can take this kind of approach, and I think the kind of exploration around the conditioned nature of experience in the world, and that we condition each other, to meeting the suffering, the conflict that's present in the world. Cultivating the capacity to be with things as they are creates the conditions for us to have more of a sense of balanced action in the world. I'm right now going to read something. I was going to say this to the end, but I'm going to read it now. This is a reflection on, he uses the word acceptance, but he's really talking about equanimity. This is a Zen teacher, Daishin Morgan. To accept means to receive what is offered. Circumstances of life give rise to conditions, and our acceptance of these conditions is just the acceptance of things as they are. What is not meant by the idea of acceptance is any agreement or disagreement with the way things are. Acceptance is about basing ourselves in reality, not about making judgments of liking and disliking or of agreeing and disagreeing. To accept the situation is to be grounded in the actual state of things, without getting lost in ideals or fantasies of how we would like it to be. We then have a good basis from which to see what action may be called for. Acceptance does not imply inertia. On the contrary, to be grounded in reality gives rise to a true response. And so this is what we can explore in our relationship to what is happening in the world. First, I think it's crucial to meet what is happening with a clear mind, to cultivate that capacity. And understand, too, I think, that conflict is a form of suffering. There's a teaching in the text that's called the exposition of non-conflict. And in that teaching that's in the Majjhima Nikaya, it says that we need to understand the state with conflict and the state without conflict. And so what do we think of as conflict? We think of conflict as resistance, of fighting, of disagreement, of wars, different perspectives, different understandings that can't be resolved, and we feel like it either has to be my way or their. It's like each side seems to feel like it's their side is right, and there's not a kind of, can we meet in the middle somewhere? There's a kind of a pulling to the opposition. This teaching says the state of conflict is a state beset by suffering, vexation, despair, and fever. And it is the wrong way. And the wrong way here means the wrong way in terms of finding peace, ease, and happiness. So it's again, the Buddha, all of the Buddhist teachings are pointing towards non-suffering, non-harming, non-suffering. One of the interesting things I think about that sentence is, conflict is a state beset by suffering, vexation, despair, and fever. So it's a state. It's a condition that has come to be. It's a state. And so this is something that can be explored. We can explore conflict internally. We can explore conflict externally. We can, kind of look at what is going on here, get to know the conditions of it, see how it has come to be. So we explore it the same way we might explore something happening internally, a state of conflict happening internally. And so this space of exploring conflict in this way can help us to have a little bit more balance, equanimity around what has come to be. And to look at from a place of compassion, non-harming, what actions are skillful to take in this moment. Remembering some of those other teachings, like pointing out the drawbacks of what's going on. That's probably a useful thing to do. Cultivating the wholesome qualities. And cultivating that perspective of wisdom, of understanding the conditioned nature of what's happening. I do believe that the world needs more of this approach of understanding and action from compassion and care without deluding ourselves. And also, I recognize that we're going to need to act when we're not equanimous. So what do we do there? What's maybe skillful to do? Internally in our meditation, when we're not equanimous, we bring in some skillful means. When it's too much, when there's too much reactivity, we bring in some skillful means about how can I balance the mind here? How can I balance the mind? Aware of our reactivity, can we ground in the intention of wisdom? So aware with reactivity that we tend to act out of reactivity. When reactivity gets strong, and now thinking about the world and acting in the world, when reactivity gets strong, we tend to act out of it. It tends to be guiding our actions. There can at times be that recognition. Yes, reactivity is here. I'm not going to be able to, get past this reactivity right now, but it may be possible in this moment to ground myself in the intentions of non-harming, of wisdom, of compassion, and committing to acting skillfully. Even not trying to convince our minds that we feel something that we don't, but committing to those basic ethical conducts. Refraining from killing, refraining from creating harm out of speech, refraining from harming through our sexuality, refraining from taking what's not given. Those basic ethical conduct can be our guide when we're experiencing reactivity. So to try to act with the intention of non-harming, even if we feel reactive, it is possible. I've watched this in my own mind in small ways, to see how it's possible to change. It's kind of like I pick up the intention of what the opposite of what's going on in my experiences, and I try to not let that reactivity leak out into my behavior, into my action. So I let my actions be guided by the intention while still fully recognizing, the heart is not balanced here. The heart, and this is wisdom. This is the cultivation of equanimity. We understand that we have this happening in our mind. This is what is arising. Yes, if I had the choice, I would turn off the hatred. I'm not able to do that right now. And can I act from a different lens? So using ethics as a kind of a guide. And then there's this cultivation of equanimity related to actions of others that are causing harm. How do we deal with that? How do we relate to that? I think a lot of the understanding around this, the compassion around this can arise when we recognize that everyone is acting out of their own conditioning. We see our own conditioning, that we as meditators get to see how much stuff is going on in our own hearts and minds. We get to see the aversion, the anger, the hatred, the confusion. I remember at one time so clearly seeing I was so angry at somebody. And then in the observing of it, I couldn't turn the anger off, but I was watching it. And in that, watching that anger, I saw that there was a part of the mind that so wanted the other person to suffer. That startled me. It's like, wow. It was a little bit of a moment of waking up and seeing the seeds of war are right here. That wish for somebody else to suffer, that's the seed of war. And seeing that was so humbling. And it made me, in that moment, it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder the world is such a mess. Multiply that by 8 billion interacting with each other. No wonder. No wonder. That moment gave me both the understanding and the appreciation for my own conditioning, but also of seeing this is not about just me. This is what's going on in the world. This is going on multiplied by 8 billion. So recognizing the conditionality of what's going on. In that conflict, the other side of the conflict, that's been conditioned also. Our side's, what we're experiencing has been conditioning, what their experience has been conditioned. And so that for me creates some conditions of compassion and humility. If I had lived their life, what might I be doing right now? I don't know. So that's a piece. Again, that's the reflection on equanimity, the reflection on the conditioned nature of experience, one of the main conditions that leads to equanimity. And just as we need to hold ourselves accountable for ethical action, and I think this is an important piece in our own hearts and minds, we need to notice, it's like, yes, it's conditioned, and there's some capacity that this being has to recognize what is being put out from this being is affecting others. And so holding ourselves accountable for how we are in the world. And this practice, this meditation practice, gives us some tools to kind of have a little bit of a gap before we react, to respond rather than reacting. So we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we need to hold others accountable. Accountable to behave in ways that are ethical, that are kind, that are compassionate. And that's a challenge right now. I don't have the answers, but I do deeply believe and feel that the direction of greed, aversion, and delusion is not the way. And that the direction of wisdom, compassion, kindness is the way. I'll just read a little bit of this paragraph again to end. To accept the situation is to be grounded in the actual state of things, without getting lost in ideals or fantasies of how we would like it to be. We then have a good basis from which to see what action may be called for. Acceptance does not imply inertia. On the contrary, to be grounded in reality gives rise to a true response. May it be so. Thank you for your attention. And I'm happy to hang out and talk with anybody who wants to afterwards for a little while. But it's time to end. So thank you all.